Hey YouTube. So, by the title of this video, you guys already know this is my divorce story. And so, I just decided to take a break because we are cleaning out our marital home because we will be selling it in a couple of days. So, I actually don't want to tell the story after we sell the home. Yeah. So, me and my husband have been married for about 6 years now, and we actually knew each other in high school. We were like frenemies in high school. Like we liked each other, but we really didn't. We kind of grew to be friends in college because we went to college together. And 2012, which was kind of like the tail end of us being in college, my husband actually just texted me one night and said, "I like you." Just to be like totally honest, I did not know what to say. At that time, I was like one of those people who I really didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I was just kind of like going with the flow. And then on top of that, I had prayed to God that basically like the next person I met would be like my husband. So I don't know if like I subconsciously like messed myself up with that one. But that's what happened. And so I text him back, I like you too. We did not talk again until that summer. That summer, I think it was like maybe July, maybe. We ended up going on our first date. 2 days later, we ended up getting engaged. I actually was just like playing with him, and I was like, we should get married. And he basically said, "Oh, I was gonna ask you to marry me anyway, so okay, let's do it." Now, all of this seems really, really rash, and so like when I think back on it, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? But I was a kid, and I don't regret it as much as I probably should. But anyway, so we ended up getting married not much longer later, but we did get married like pretty fast. We got married at the end of August. For the first 4 years, really a little bit longer than 4 years, like the marriage to me at least was like, it was good. He was very kind, he was very generous, he was very affectionate, he was funny, he was growing into like a different person, like a more mature version of like the person I knew in college. In the middle of the marriage, like we were both focused on school, right? So we didn't have like a lot of time for each other. Like we helped each other with school. It was just like a lot, like a lot happening, a lot of career changes. And like I cannot say like he was like horrible for like the whole marriage. I can say he was very controlling. He controlled all the finances. He wanted to control all the bills. He wanted to control like everything. When we leave, when we come home, like what we do, like it was to the point where like when I start coming home and leaving home by myself, he put up cameras so he can see when I came home and when I left. But he was a good person. I would say like the end of 2017 is when stuff started to go haywire. I don't really know what happened. It was just like I would say I met a person, not like that though, but I met a person and they were really nice and really kind, and I don't know what happened, but it was like something in me remembered that my husband used to be like that, right? But he wasn't. And so I kind of brought it up to him and was like, hey, you kind of treat me like a kid now. I don't like it. Can you stop? And so it stopped for like 2 weeks. Yeah, and 2 weeks. Enough for us to make it into the new year. And so when the new year came, we actually tried to have a kid. And we did, and we lost the kid. And so I think this was kind of like the turning point to the end, right? Because I wanted to mourn, but he was acting like it was no big deal. And that really affected a lot of everything, actually. He went back to kind of like treating me like I was a kid. He went back to being like super controlling. He was like less and less affectionate. Like I had to like make him say like I love you before he got off the phone, or like it was just like weird. And so I was okay though. At this point, I was still like, well, that's my husband. He ain't changing. I'm just gonna be that like old lady with the bitter husband who don't want to like trick or treat with the kids or whatever. So I was still okay with it. But I had a contract. I had a contract job, and the contract ended suddenly. I was in human resources and it ended suddenly, and I really liked the contract. I really wanted to finish the project. And at that time, like I was still like mourning, like I lost the kid, you know, I was still mourning. And so like the loss of the contract kind of just like made things worse. So I just kind of wanted to have my own pity party. And just be honest, like I wanted to have my own pity party. I wanted to sit in bed and cry. Like I wanted to just be like, why me, God? But he wasn't really having that. So I remember him coming home and he literally dragged me off the bed and put me in the car. He said we were going to a psychiatric ward. And so I had like some traumatic stuff happen to me when I was a kid. So I do not like mental institutions. I would stay away from mental institutions as much as I could. But he actually put me in the car. Like the whole way I was crying. I didn't want to go. I was like, please stop, just take me back home. And he promised me that we were just gonna go to his grandma's house. So instead he did have his grandma meet us at the hospital, and they both like forced me into the hospital. And so of course I won't lie, yes, I was very erratic. I was very like combative, because like when you have like a traumatic situation happen to you, you don't want to like relive that trauma on purpose. Like even being in that place is just like gut wrenching. It just brings back like bad memories. It puts you in a bad place. It puts you in a bad mood. And so instead of like my husband like protecting me and like understanding, he was not. And 6 officers literally like jumped on me and manhandled me and like were like just horrible. Like they were hitting me and they were restraining me and they were like undressing me, and it was just like horrible. And he was just standing there like watching, and I was just like, I was traumatized. Like that's some like shit I still think about. Like that was like horrible, you know. Um, and the story gets worse. um, but they let me go. They didn't think anything was wrong with me, so they let me go. Um, After that, he was nice for like another 2 weeks, and he told me that he didn't want me to go back to work. I'm not that kind of person. I don't want to sit at home. Like, I got a degree so I can work, not so I can sit at home. So I went back to work, and I think that he was really upset because I didn't listen. But at the same time, I think that he kind of like he knew me, so he kind of understood like I needed to work. But he never liked when people like didn't listen to him. He would always say to me like, you need to go see a counselor. So when stuff started going bad is when I started to see that counselor. So I jumped too far here. So prior to that, my husband actually tried to put me in like a mental institution like 3 other times. And like I will learn later, it was because like he had a motive and he was trying to like do stuff behind my back, which he could legally if I was incapacitated. So one day he picked me up from work. I would say it was not more than 2 or 3 months later after the first incident that he tried it again. He took me over my grandmother's house, and like it was so unusual. And I remember like sitting in a car and saying, wow, my daddy's here. And I was so happy to see him, like, oh, my daddy's here. And I walked in and my mom was there and my aunt and my uncle were there, and I was like, oh, this is so odd, especially for a Monday. And it was so odd that he would even take me there because he didn't like going over my grandmother's house. Not like shortly after we entered and I said hi to everybody, like he started to, say or give his spiel on why like I should basically be put in a mental institution. He started telling like everybody in my family like why I didn't like them, why like I had issues with them in the past, that I didn't, need to be, I didn't need to be free. I was like a danger to myself and everybody else. But I had gone to work that day. I was at home by myself for like 5 hours. And like my family was like, what are you talking about? She's dangerous to herself. Like, why did you leave her by herself, right? Why did you let her go to work? Because I wasn't, because he was lying. And so I've always been really submissive, and I've always, well, not really, that's a lie. In a marriage, I was very submissive, and I was very family oriented. So I never wanted my family to hate him no matter what he did. So I tried to keep it between us. But like he really, to some degree, I knew it was over when he like violated that. So long story short, they didn't end up taking me. They would not let me go home. He stormed out they would have let me go home, but he stormed out the house and he actually left me. Because they refused to take me to the hospital. I stayed over there for a couple of days. He also stormed out because he was like really upset because like for the first time in a while I actually spoke up for myself. And so I told my family about how like he wanted a sister wife, and he had been bugging me about a sister wife for like months at a time. Like how like he put me out our room. He woke up one morning, he was like just angry, and he decided to tell me to get my shit and leave the room and go somewhere else. He acknowledged that he said that, but he refused to tell them that, yeah, I said I wanted a sister wife. But he said, yeah, I did put her out the room. I told her to get her stuff and go. But he said, but y'all should be happy because I let her come back. His exact words. So, I think I ended up going home a week later. And stuff started to get worse. When I went home, I immediately noticed, like, whenever somebody would call him, he would use the handheld. Like, he would never put it on speaker. And we were never, like, the type of people who, like, didn't talk on speakerphone unless we were in public. But he would find, like, reasons and ways or you know, like, excuses. Like, when I would ask, like, why don't you talk on speakerphone anymore? He'd be like, oh, the car radio doesn't work, or, you know, this, that, or the other. And then eventually he just started saying, none of your business. It's none of your business what I talk about. He started being, like, emotionally abusive. So he would start taunting me, right? If I didn't do what he said, he would, like, be really mean to me. He started to tell me, like, everything that was, like, wrong with me. Like, he was just not nice. But I think, like, he never really started to say, like, he wanted a divorce until, like, I actually started to see a counselor. And I was doing, like, I am enough movement. So, like, I would be, like, studying and going to different lectures and doing, like, different things and watching different lectures. And whenever he would say something really bad or really mean to me, I would be like, you know, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I am enough, and I would try to do it, you know, the way I can. And if you don't like it, I'm so sorry to hear that. And, like, it seemed like that would just, like, aggravate him. So, like, the more I would be, like, independent in my thinking, or the more I would be, like, confident in myself, like, he would just be angry. And I would start telling him, like, you know, it's not me angry with you just, or me you don't like, it's you just don't like yourself. Maybe you should go see therapy. And I think when I said that, I remember that's when shit got real. That's when he wanted to divorce me. He didn't want to deal with me. He was really mean to me. He would, like, try to taunt me on purpose. He would make sure, like, every step of the way, like, every day he would wake up and remind me that he wanted a divorce, right? He would only be nice to me if he wanted something. So, like, if, like, he would need money out of my check. So he would be really nice to me. Eventually he just started taking my check. Like, he would go into my account and he would literally take the whole check. And I would be like, "Ro, what are you doing?" And he'd be like, "Well, it's community property." I changed my password, and somehow he still managed to go into my account and take my money. He went on to my, like, school account, and he changed, like, all my financial aid stuff to his account. So, like, my refunds would be going to his account. He was just, like, a horrible person. He tried to refinance the house without me. He tried to refinance the car in his own name. And basically, he was trying to leave me with nothing. So his goal was, he wanted me to be homeless, and he wanted to, like, reap the benefits of everything we had created together. So eventually, fast forward all the nonsense, he decided that he couldn't do any of that stuff without me. So he would be nice to me, and he wanted to talk about selling the house. And so he said, because at first he wanted to keep the house, and he said I would have to like basically just fend for myself. So eventually, after he knew like I wasn't going for that, because like that's just not fair. Like if we built the house together, like we should sell the house if we not together. Like that makes more sense. So eventually he decided we should sell the house. And we should sell the house, and we should like put all the money towards the car. And at first he was being really, really nice, and so I was just like, okay, well, I'm not okay with it because technically, like I would be homeless. Like, because that makes no sense, right? Like I'm selling my house to go where? And like he already had this conversation with his grandmother, so he already knew like she was gonna be okay with him coming to live, and all this other stuff. And he never thought about me, like never. So I was like, I'll think about it. It might work. I'll talk to my grandma. I don't know. During this time, my grandmother actually got really, really sick. My mom got sick. And then I also found out that my dad was sick. So it was a lot emotionally on me. And it just kind of seemed like the more he knew like I was emotionally drained, like the more he tried to take from me. So he would actually like call me up, tell me we gonna work it out. He would like, I had moved out. During like this whole process, I moved out of this house about 3 times. And every time he would have me go get my stuff and come back home because he wanted me home. Yeah. But eventually, like, he said, like, okay, well, to prove, like, I'm not, like, I don't have no ill intent, I will give you, like, all the profit from the house, and I'll take everything in the house. And then you pay the taxes. And then he changed his mind again. Because the thing about it is, like, and it's a bit of my fault, too, because, like, I allowed him to think that he did everything in the marriage, because I would go to work, give him the paycheck, let him do everything, let him pay everything, say thank you. Oh my God, thank you. You are so amazing. I don't know how we could have did this without you. And realistically, it wasn't him doing everything. It was us. Like, and that's something that I have to deal with, and I have to like go back and just be like, oh, that's a lesson learned. Because realistically, he didn't do anything by himself. He didn't get this house by himself. He didn't get that car by himself. He didn't even get his degrees by himself. So because I allowed him to think he did, and I allowed him to like take credit for everything in public, like he began to like feel like, oh, I did it by myself. But he didn't. So a little bit of that was like, I would take like blame for that, because I did that. So he began to like feel like I couldn't do anything. So initially we were quoted a very low price for our home. because we wanted cash. We didn't want to go through anybody with a mortgage because, of course, we could have got a lot more, but we wanted to move fast. We didn't want to pay closing. We didn't want to pay a realtor. We just wanted to take the money and go. So, of course, when people buy houses with cash, they want to give you like little or nothing. So he was like, you're not going to get nothing for the house, so you can take the profit from the house. Once he found out that I literally got way more than what he thought I was going to get, his whole everything switched. He didn't want to like give me the whole profit for the house. He wanted money from the house. At that point, he was gonna let me take little things out of the house, but not nothing like super major. It was just a shit show. He kept drawing up contracts saying what I was gonna get, what I wasn't gonna get, what he wasn't gonna do for me. He just like at that point he just started not to care at all. Like he was like somebody. It was kind of like one of those like alien shows. Like somebody had literally taken over his mind and he was a stranger. Like I knew his face, but he was a stranger because he started to do stuff that was like horrible towards the end. Like we had one dog. He gave away two. We had 3 dogs. He gave away 2 of my dogs, my favorite dogs. And he did it to spite me because he knew I was taking care of my grandma. I was going back and forth from the house. He didn't like it. He didn't feel like I should have taken care of my grandma. He didn't feel like I should be over there at all. But because I didn't listen, he was basically like teaching me a lesson. And so he gave away the dogs. He kept the one he liked, but then he eventually realized he wasn't gonna have time for her. And so he is allowing me to keep her. So it was kind of like he became a different person. He was very mean. He was very hostile. He didn't care if he hurt my feelings. He didn't care if I cried. He didn't care like if I didn't come home. He didn't care if I didn't know where he was. He wouldn't come home until like Lord knows when. Like he would leave early. He wouldn't tell me where he was going. He wouldn't come home until 10, 11 o'clock at night. Like it was just like he was somebody else. Like I did not know him. I did not know him. I do not know him. I do not know who he is. And I think like if I could have one takeaway from this, I think it would be really, you know how the old people say like, you know, how a man treats his mom is how he would treat you. I really think that is so true because he treated his mother horribly. He was so mean to his mama. He was so rude to her. He was like, he was not, it was kind of like she wasn't even his mom. He was really nice to his grandma, but his grandma is like really cold too, and she like switches on and off, and she's kind of like nice, nasty, you know. And he never really had like, because I come from a 2-parent household. He never really had that, and he never really had like a good meal, like good, like legit, like this is what love is in his like family. So I think a lot of that plays into it too, as to why like he can just cut it off and just be like, don't love you anymore. Because I don't truly think he understands a concept of love. But that's kind of like a lesson learned, because you know next time, like really like watch how people treat the people who they are supposed to love, and you know, just be a better judge of character. So that is my story, and Of course, it is not over, but at least this chapter of it is. And 2019 is rolling in. So I've consciously made a decision to like just let it go, live my life, rebuild elsewhere. So we'll see how that turns out. See ya.